Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick, and we're live from Foxborough, Massachusetts. We have this is probably like the weirdest, setup for...
No, it's not the weirdest.
No, let me finish, because we're doing the hotel room setup, but we also did 40 minutes of this episode in Boomer and Gio's WFAN Studio with Tiki Barber. So probably the weirdest setup we've ever had for a podcast. We've had a weirder single-place setup in that one hotel in New Jersey on the Andrew Thomas interview day. I guess that hotel and the Andrew Thomas, that was the first episode in the van. That's probably a little weirder. You're right.
The transition from we're on a couch, you're leaning forward, I'm leaning back, and there's a tripod in a room with a camera. The transition from whatever this setup is to literally you can't get more professional than being in a radio studio.
No, it's the most professional studio I've ever seen in my life.
So this is, you know what? But in a way, this kind of represents who we are.
Yeah, this does represent who we are. So the Tiki Barber interview went 40 minutes longer than we didn't even get to hit all the stuff that we had written down to ask. So that was a great. That was a great interview.
Tiki's a great guy, man. I really want to emphasize that he's a really good dude. He's genuine. He knows who we are, but he didn't. Still, we recorded this at 1:30, and this is an hour and a half before he's got to go live on the air, whatever time they go live, and. He really went into detail, and it was a really cool, fun interview. We covered a lot of his career, and then even the current Giants too. So I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it coming out of the interview. I want to talk a little bit about the rookies and watching the film on their preseason performance. Justin, before that, I have a trivia question for you. How many different states have me and you done episodes together now?
Well, this is Massachusetts, so 1, New Jersey 2. We did do a Florida episode 3. We've done a North Carolina episode 4.
Oh, I missed one. I forgot we did North Carolina.
Yeah, so 4. I mean, I feel like there's maybe a 5th one in there.
There's a couple more.
I mean, I did a Nashville.
You forgot a very obvious one because you said New Jersey.
Oh, New York 5.
New York.
Are we counting Tennessee because I did the Tennessee episode? But
no, episodes we did together. 5,
and then Carolina. What other tours have we done? Chicago 6.
Yeah, Illinois.
I think that's it.
Michigan for Detroit last year.
Oh, that's right.
And Alabama for the Senior Bowl every year.
That's right. How can I forget about Alabama? I was thinking this morning how excited I am to go back.
So this is our 8th state. I think we need to do all 50 states. Cannot wait for the South Dakota one. Justin, this episode is brought to you by some special people. Chad Polvoy, he's got a pole in his front yard where he flies the American flag very high.
How about a po' boy?
Juan Arevalo. I'm actually voting someone named Juan for vice president this year. My friend Juan. Scott Vosper. My brother's middle name is Scott. Jason Scott Skinner, if you want to look him up. Michael Cratter. He's not a ratter. He's a cratter. Marco Verost. He's on the... I feel like Marco might have been a Patreon in a past life. Joe Anastasio. And then Sean G. Rob Bulldog. Michael Chorus. Gabriel. And my brother's blowing me up, so he probably needs me. Justin, who brought you these things?
These wonderful people went to patreon.com/talkinggiants for $2 a month plus monthly tiers to get hang out with us live while we record the show. As Bobby Skinner, when he's back in the great state of Florida, is going to send you some stickers in the mail. Plus, there's some shirt raffles a couple times a month, and that's what we officially will recognize people that stop their Patreon, but then they re-sign up again, and then the name shows up. It's like we're going to call you in your past life. You were previously a Patreon member, so you actually come back to life when you sign back up.
Coming back to life. Thank you, people. All right, Justin, rookie report for the first preseason game. Malik Neighbors, we've seen the clips out there. You posted all the clips in the 1-on-1. It wasn't anything special, but you can see that he got open pretty easily. It wasn't like crazy ass open, but he was open. I know the whole shot debate got brought up, which is very funny that
we're doing that with Drew Lock.
Yeah, well, it's throw the whole shot. It's not the easiest throw in the world, but he could have made that throw. That's the whole thing. Isn't that what we want, right? And isn't that the thing that Lock was going to do? That Jones wanted is throw the whole shot.
And more than that, there was the whole shot. There wouldn't have. It was a window, and he would have probably got tackled. I mean, maybe he makes somebody miss, but there was a crosser that he was running over the middle of the field, and he was wide ass open, man. Where if he got that ball in his hands, he was going to have space to run, and then we would have seen a little glimpse of Malik Neighbors, what he could do with the ball in his hands, which we haven't really seen that in camp because you're not tackling in camp. And that's like the main thing that I'm excited for to start this year is to see what Malik Neighbors can do with the ball in his hands.
Now
and
he has
make guys miss.
Now he has a sprained ankle.
Hopefully
a sprained ankle. Brian Dable said
they think it's not anything else.
Yeah, they think it's not a fracture, which is
I think a lot of things too.
Yeah, there was either that's like awful PR or like they actually don't know what the injury is.
I'm not believing it until it's official.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get some official on that, but that's again, camp injuries are so weird because it's like, okay, well, we have a month to the season. We've seen plenty of this guy. We know he's going to be good. Is he out 2 weeks and you don't worry about it? You're never thinking about it again, or is this something that lingers into the season? Like you don't know because they don't have to file injury. They don't have to file injury reports until week 1.
Let's hope for the former.
There was a bunch of other, injuries. Nothing as of note as Malik Neighbors. But the other rookies, I think, are worth talking about a little more because we kind of know what Malik Neighbors is. Didn't get the ball thrown his way. Tyler Nubin, 18 snaps. I really liked what I saw out of him. Again, you didn't see him get his hand on any football or get the ball thrown his way, but he was physical, man. Like he was really, really brings a level of physicality that Dane Belton just does not bring or will ever bring as an NFL player. He was bringing pop, taking on blocks. We obviously saw the play that went viral of him blowing up a guard, allowing for a Deontay Johnson run stop on 3rd down. But also, like, good job in man coverage by not being over aggressive, but being physical, getting to the inside of the receiver or tight end or whoever he was lining up against. I thought he looked pretty damn good. Again, it's a small sample size, and they're not throwing a ton out there defensively for schematic wise, but man coverage and playing the run, which is what he was asked to do in the preseason, and those 18 snaps, and I thought he did a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, I mean, he had bad quarterback play that wasn't going to test the defense vertically or down the field or really
right.
I think anything that Tyler Nubin would have been asked to play coverage in. So he had bad quarterback play and but yeah, similar to the notes that we had in our game recap, it was cool to see how physical he was. I'm confident that Tyler Nubin is going to be able to make a play on the football and that he's going to have the smarts, but cool to see him adjust to the NFL strength of at least these backup players. But hey, knocking over a 300-pound man is knocking over a 300-pound man.
Yeah, I don't care if that's a backup or third string. That's a nice ass
That's a good
play.
sign. That's a good sign, and how confident he was in doing that as well. We want Tyler Nubin to be a player that is not going to have to think, but just do and be physical and fly around the football field. And for 1 week, he did that. And then, hey, even during today's practice, apparently he picked off Daniel Jones in the red zone.
I'm so mad I wasn't there to see that. I want to see a Tyler Nubin interception so badly.
Apparently, it was a dead play where Jones was scrambling. Maybe it was going to be a sack, and then Jones just kind of threw it up for Nubin to get an interception. But as Javarius Owens, and there's a bunch of injuries to that safety room, Bobby, I do think, is it Tyler Nubin gets first-team reps because there's just such a lack of safeties right now? Because apparently even Pinnock and Belton were getting third-team reps at some points today because of all the injuries? Or is this a merit, bumping him up merit-wise? I certainly hope that I think he deserves first-team reps.
Yeah, I think they drafted him in the 2nd round. He looks the part so far. I think he should be getting first team, at least splitting some to start.
Yeah,
but I thought he did have like kind of a missed tackle on that little smoke route. And you could see it, like he was really like pissed off about it.
It wasn't the most consequential thing. You had other guys that were there to clean it up.
Yeah.
So.
The next 2 guys were the ones that I wasn't super impressed with. Andrew Phillips, the 3rd round pick. He only played 7 snaps. He had the tackle for loss in the running game. That's awesome.
Yeah, great.
So with Phillips, there was nothing like, oh, this is a really bad play he had, because he didn't get called for any penalties. But there was he played 7 snaps, only had a few in coverage. He's really grabby past 5 yards. Like it really and it's not like a little like snag and then get into your spot. Like it's like through this receiver trying to make the break. And granted, they didn't call it. And if you play like that consistently, you get a reputation for just being physical, and refs won't call it on you. But he's not going to have that reputation right away. And it was just like. It's cool because like the coverage looked good at the end of the day. Like it was close coverage, but it was very grabby, and that kind of had me worried a little bit. But he didn't get burnt or anything like that, so I guess that's a positive sign.
No, and such a low sample size. The tackle for loss was cool. Hey, when you're out there, make impact plays, and at least, hey,
part of the reason why they drafted him was make plays like that.
Checkbacks, check one. Drew Phillips with such a high missed tackle rate. The first opportunity that he has to really make a tackle and really make an impact play in the run, he makes it. So I'm considering that a success for Drew Phillips, who again was only out there for 7 sacks.
And then Theo Johnson, the 4th-round pick, tight end, I thought was probably pretty clearly had the worst performance out of any of the rookie draft picks. There was some decent as a blocker, but there was also some really bad, right? Got blown up on a run play into the running back. May have given up a sack with Tyrone Tracy Jr. I don't know exactly the assignment, but it was, a play action. And he's blocking the guy on his inside shoulder, and the guy on the outside shoulder of him runs past Tyrone. It was definitely a bad job on Tyrone Tracy. I think Theo Johnson was probably supposed to come off of that and help on that. And then in the receiving game, just a little, ran like I think 3 or 4 routes. No, he ran like 5 routes. 2 were just like nothing special. 1 put a little shake on a linebacker on over, and then the other 2 got rerouted badly. Like 1 just put on his ass, and the other one really taken off his track. So got banged, like I said, got banged around on the reroutes. Didn't do great as a blocker, driven back into the running back's lap. I thought he had the worst performance out of the rookies.
I hope he gets better.
Well, yeah, because he's in line to actually play this year, right? And that's one of my 5 guys to watch for was Theo Johnson, and it wasn't just for the receiving ability. It's because hey, anytime you have a rookie tight end who's probably going to play year 1, I need to see how this guy's as an inline blocker. Yeah,
and I've been
it's not like an Evan Ingram, Greg Dulcich profile where it's like he's not a good blocker. Like he was a good blocker in college, but it's just a different thing in the NFL.
Yeah, and I have been pretty sold on Theo Johnson's going to start. I mean, I think our takes and opinion on that is very much out there, but I think the preseason is important for Theo because if he doesn't look the part, then guess what? It's not that the Giants don't want to start him. It's just that the Giants may not have a choice but to bring him along more slowly than maybe what they intend to. So starters are going to play against the Houston Texans, and as long as he's healthy and ready to go, I hope that he gets a lot of run to see kind of where he's at.
Yeah, he should play they're going to rotate, but he should get like a half's worth of snaps, even if he has to play into the second half next week. Tyrone Tracy Jr., running back, he had the best performance out of the rookies, in my opinion. 23 of his 26 rushing yards were after contact, average over 5 yards per carry, 4 missed tackles on 5 runs. And we came, this was before going and watching all 22 film, but on our recap episode on Friday, Justin, we both said, I was more impressed with Tyrone Tracy than Eric Gray, despite the fact that Eric Gray had the best box score night of everyone. He had the missed block. That matters. It wasn't a bad block. It was just a missed block. He didn't get beat physically. But, I was really impressed with him as a runner because it wasn't just Dante Miller speed or Eric Gray one cut and go at the second level. He took some bad runs and turned them into good runs, which was my biggest worry of him coming out of Purdue, is he had so little amount of carries, and the good ones were very basic, easy reads where he just goes and able to use his athleticism. And there was some stuff on film where, man, when they throw a different run look at him, there was issues. And hey, he got very basic looks at him too. So we haven't, we're not out of the woods completely, but I thought he had the most impressive night out of the rookies.
No, those were NFL runs. And I think the things that you saw, at least with the advanced stuff with yards after contact and contact balance, the 2 buzzwords and buzz phrases that you say with some of these running backs, and especially Tyrone Tracy, you saw it, but you saw it on what I thought were NFL runs. It's not just college runs of shit's wide open and you're playing backups, right?
Yeah.
It's NFL runs where shit was a little muddy, but he made something out of nothing. And it wasn't even just something. They were positive runs that will keep an offense on schedule. And it not even just keep it on schedule, but the running game can be a strength of that drive of that game if you have a runner like Tyrone Tracy that's running like that.
What'd you see out of Darius Moasso?
You have the talking point of it's pretty easy for linebackers to look good in the preseason. Who was the Austin Calitro?
Austin Calitro, preseason MVP 2022.
And then he gets in the game and then it looks really bad. But I thought he looked fast. I thought he looked physical. I thought he he came in and he hit hard. I was really watching Elijah Chapman, the UDFA interior defensive lineman, and watching. I wasn't necessarily watching 53 in like a.
Should we do a UDFA report on the next episode?
Maybe, because some of these guys, at least with Elijah Chapman, it's more fun to talk about him than Moasu. But hey, he was good. He wasn't bad, but also I don't think it's very difficult for these interior linebackers to look very good in the preseason.
Justin, why don't you talk to us about something before we talk to Tiki Barber?
Holy smokes.
Do the damn do.
It happened. I mean, if you know me.
That's why I'm wearing this shirt.
If you know me, we should film a green screen video with that shirt on.
I will. I'm going to wear that to the office on Thursday.
Please don't. Please do not. If you know me, man, like, I'm bringing Mountain Dew up, not because I am. Not because, oh yeah, I love Mountain Dew, which I do. I'm bringing it up because it's our newest sponsor. And you know what we all need to do? Get off our ass. Get up. Oh, I'm up. Get up. Pick up the table. That's right. You can put it down now. And I'm going to sit down now.
Thank you, Mountain Dew.
Thank you, Mountain Dew. We need to get off our ass, and Mountain Dew is going to provide the bold flavors, refreshing citrus kick. Mountain Dew to get you off your ass and having you feel like you're on an actual mountain. Hey, Mountain Dew.
Makes me want to trash this hotel room.
They sent us to Foxborough, Massachusetts. How do you like that? We're covering Eagles, Patriots joint practice. Mountain Dew inspired me to come here, and this is a dream partnership for me. The Mountain is calling. You should answer. Grab your friends. Grab an ice-cold Mountain Dew wherever refreshing beverages are sold, and do the Dew. Last week, I drank about 5 or 6 Mountain Dews in a span of 2 hours for the warehouse stream.
I had to do at the race the other night.
And I had a lot of fun, and Mountain Dew is going to be with us for the entire year, so you'll be glad you did.
You will be glad you did.
I will become the face of Mountain Dew, by the way.
And here's Tiki Barber. All right, we now welcome on to the program Giants all-time leading rusher, all-time scrimmage leader, Ring of Honor, Tiki Barber. My first question is, why are you not in the Hall of Fame? Because we did a segment on our show with Chris Rose the other day, and it's bullshit. Like, you've led the league in scrimmage yards twice. You weren't a stat compiler who played for an extra 5 years. Everyone around you in scrimmage yards is in. Like, what do we got to do to get you in? Do we get you in with Eli and Coffin at the same time?
I mean, that would be nice. That would be fun. They kind of did that a couple years ago when my brother went in, because Revis went in along with Klecko. So it was like the Jets took over Canton, Ohio. My brother actually had an interesting point on this right when he was getting elected and going in a year ago. And he said, the history of running backs is so complicated. Because early in the Pro Football Hall of Fame's lifespan, it was like a running back winning every year. They're packed with running backs. And so it was almost like they took a break from running backs. I think the last one to get in was Edge. And what was that, 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah.
And so I think it's a combination of saturated running back position, but also people start to look at the lack of use of running backs in the NFL, and they don't value the guys who came before, who actually got 400 touches a game, a season, who actually, had to carry the mail 35 times a game, whether that was passing and receiving, which is what I would do. I would never, I was never a 35 carry a game guy, but I think the perception has changed. And so to me, it's all about being able to tell the story. But the problem with being able to tell the story is that you have to get to the semifinals and you have to get to the finals. Right? If you don't get to that final, nobody's telling your story. Right? If you just get nominated, it's kind of like, oh, cool, Tiki got nominated. Oh, Eddie George got nominated. Whoever got nominated. But if you don't get deeper into the process, you can't tell your story. That's the challenge.
It's just frustrating because when we look at, Adrian Peterson's probably the next back of guys who are not eligible yet that will get in. But you think, the way you hear how these committees work, and all right, who have we missed? Mm-hmm. And you go through scrimmage yards, it's like they're 15th all time. No other back is coming close to that in the near future. It's just frustrating why they wouldn't get you in.
I hope so. One of these days.
How long?
I have my brother on the inside lobbying now.
That's what I was going to say. Having Rondé in there.
I'm only half joking, but I'm like, dude, anytime you see those guys,
that's what's frustrating.
Yell at them. Tiki needs to be in here too. Tiki needs to be in here too. And in fact, in his Hall of Fame speech, is one of the things he said. He said, without, the one thing you got to remember about me is that you can't talk about me without talking about my brother. And so he was trying to make me cry. Got close, but I didn't.
Those commercials, you guys had a Visa commercial together back in the
day. Yeah, we had, we were always tied at the hip. We almost got together, when we were both free agents in 2000, after the 2000 season. I knew I wasn't going anywhere, but he hadn't quite established himself in Tampa. And so as a free agent, they didn't know if they were going to sign him. So I was like, Jim Fossil, go get Rondé, go get Rondé. But we had to sign Seahorn. And so there was no money left.
That has me torn because as a Giants fan, I would have loved it. But
I'd been cool.
As my favorite defense of all time is that 0-2 Bucks defense.
Right.
And it wouldn't have been that defense.
No doubt about
Rondé.
it. No doubt about it. And he wouldn't have a Super Bowl. He wouldn't have, I doubt he would have played 16 years. I mean, he's one of the, icons at that position because he did it for so long with one team and won a Super Bowl for a team that was perennially bad. They had some good seasons in there, but they didn't. I mean, it was maybe 4 or 5 of his 16 seasons. They were really good. Other than that, it was a lot of toiling away. But I think that's why the Tampa Bay fan appreciates him so much.
Oh yeah, just everyone because I live in Florida.
Yeah,
and it's just that.
Oh,
that
he's the
team,
mayor down there.
That
dude.
team's like the '86 Bears.
No doubt about
there,
it. He's like the king. He's never gonna leave.
Yeah,
he lives just north of Tampa and Odessa. And I'm like, dude, when you leaving? When you going to Virginia? When you going somewhere? He's like, I'm here for life.
And it's just not a lot nicer there too. To be fair,
no doubt.
We wanted to hit some stuff on your career, like just going back in time.
Cool.
What's the most memorable run of your career?
Honestly, there were a lot of great ones, but the one that always jumps to the top of my mind is the Wellington game in 2005 against Washington, then the Redskins, obviously. I mean, we dominated that game from, literally the first play. We ran outside zone to the left. Sean Taylor took a bad angle. He tried to come inside as opposed to filling the 8-hole gap where he was supposed to be, and there was nobody there. And so I just went 60 or 58 yards down the left sideline, but I kept getting caught. Couldn't score touchdowns, but late in the third quarter, Timmy McDonald, and I've told the story many times, who is one of Wellington's grandsons and is a good friend of mine. He now works for the Giants and player personnel. He said, "Are you going to keep getting caught? Are you going to score a touchdown?" And I said, "Timmy, before this game is over, I'm scoring you a damn touchdown." And right at the end of the third quarter, I scored a touchdown. And I got up and I always blew a kiss. I blew a kiss and I dropped the ball. And then I turned around and picked it up. And I took it over to Timmy and gave it to him and said, this is for you and your family and your grandfather. I love being a Giant. And I took myself out of that game. It was like my 205th or 6th or something yard. And it was the only way to pay homage to the greatest man in Giant history, which is Wellington.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would say that's your best game?
It was without a doubt. I mean, I had a better game at the end of my career, which was the 234th or whatever it was, 234 yards in my last regular season game. But that was the one that meant the most. It just, I don't know, it just, the whole week sits so strongly in my psyche, in my memory, because he passed away after that Denver game, I believe. It was Denver game. We came back and won. And then on Tuesday, I got called up to Westchester to go visit the mayor at home, and I got a chance to say goodbye to him on his deathbed. And it was a special, special week, despite being a very sad one.
Yeah. You've probably talked about this time and time again, but you just said it. 234 yards in your last regular season game?
Yeah.
I'll never be able to relate to this kind of thought process, but you have that game, right? Back-to-back seasons where you make the playoffs,
right?
Too. So it's not like the team maybe isn't going anywhere. Thought process of, all right, this is it. Despite having 05 and 06 was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew it's complicated. So I just told you about my feelings for Wellington. I had as strong and maybe deeper feelings for Bob Tisch, who passed away about 2 weeks later, maybe it was a month later, than Wellington. And, I mean, I lived on the Upper East Side. I was on 72nd Street and First. Bob lived in the Regency on Park Avenue. I mean, he would literally send Sammy, his valet, to come pick me up, and we'd go do events, right? Political events, social events, charity events, whatever. Let's go, to Feinstein's at the Regency and listen to a jazz musician. And so I got really tight with Bob. and I was obviously tight with Wellington, and in 05, so this all goes back to 05. 05, we were really good. We won 10 games. Remember, we hosted the wild card game against the Carolina Panthers, and that season started with us all knowing that we might lose both of our owners, that they could pass away. And Coach Coughlin said to us in one of our first meetings in training camp, we just remember, no matter what happens, we are the team of record for Wellington Mara and Bob Tisch. And like to some people, some of the younger players, maybe that didn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh yeah, that's cool. Those are our owners, and yeah, let's do it for. But I mean, I had a relationship with them that it felt real, and so there was a reason that I had the season that I had in 2005. It wasn't just because I was good and our offensive line was good. Like every game meant something, and I mean, I rushed for 200 yards 5 times in my career. 3 of them happened in that season, and it wasn't by accident. It was because every moment I cherished, and it meant something. And so we get to the postseason, and we play the Panthers, and we were better than the Panthers. We had no business losing. I mean, they were converting like 3rd and 18s with draws and stuff like that. It was one of the most maddening games I've ever been a part of. We couldn't get anything done offensively, and we ended up losing. And after the game, like the narrative was like, "Oh, we'll get them next year." In my mind, I'm like, "Fuck that, man!" like that season needed to be better, and I lost something. Like I lost this like fire that I had before, and so going into the next season, and I'm beat up, and I'm 30, getting ready to be 31. I'm getting 400 touches a year. So, I mean, 1,500, 1,800. That year was 1,800 yards rushing. I had 500 yards receiving. And it was just, I was getting tired.
Yeah.
Like I was getting worn out from preparing to be the guy that had that type of season. And on a second tier or second level of my life, I started having all of these unbelievable experiences. So I got invited to go to Israel by Shimon Peres, who was the premier of Israel. I went and had lunch with Condoleezza Rice in the State Department. From working at Fox News, I was going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I had a dinner with the Vice President's wife, with Cheney, with Lynn Cheney, and so I ended up getting invited to the Vice President's Christmas party. And so I go to practice, and then I like fly down to DC, and I'm at the Christmas party. I'm at the bar with Lieutenant General Raymond Odierno, who happens to be Condoleezza Rice's security advisor. Like all of this stuff is just like making me feel like I want to do something else. You know what I mean? I have these connections and these insights and football became not as like exciting to me. And it really came to a head the second game of that season. I think it was second, maybe it was the third. We played the Eagles in Philly, and Jeremiah Trotter just beat the crap out of me, and Brian Dawkins just beat the crap out of me. And I remember saying to Jim Finn, our fullback, Finney, I'm like, "Finney, man, I think I'm done." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, I don't feel it. Like I don't feel like the fire and the energy and like I want to kill these guys. I want to kill these Philadelphia Eagles. I didn't feel it. Yeah. It was just kind of like I was going through the motions. And he's like, "Man, you can't do that. We got a lot of season left." I said, "Finney, I'm going to have a great year. Trust me." Like, I'm good enough. I know we're going to have a great year. Our offensive line is good enough. Eli is taking those steps. We're going to have a great year, but I think this is it. Yeah. And so I just started making plans for what was coming next. And unfortunately, John Branch, who writes for the New York Times, was following me around on one of my book tours with my children's books. And afterwards, he said, it was like 7 o'clock at night. He wrote me, he's like, I think you're retiring. And I have to report it. It's my job to report it. And I said, "John, I would rather you not say that," because he had followed us unfettered. Like, we didn't put restrictions on what he could see. And so he's in these conversations that I'm having with Fox News and NBC and everything else that's going on in my life. And he reports that night that I'm retiring from the NFL. And Peter John Baptiste wrote me, and he was like, "Teak, call me now." And so I called him. He was the assistant to Pat Hanlon at the time. He's now with the Cleveland Browns. And he said, do you want this to come out like this? I said, no, but I can't stop John from writing an article. Yeah. And so it became this like story that I was retiring. Nowadays, everybody says they're retiring, and they just have these like walkaway tours. But from then, it was a huge deal because of what you were alluding to. I was having these great seasons, and but we went on and had the season that we had. We struggled, but we made the playoffs by winning against Washington late in the game. We had a really good game against the Eagles. Brian Westbrook, the last drive, he couldn't stop his ass, and they got in the field goal range and kicked us out of the playoffs. Yep. And I'll never forget after that game, Dawkins came up to me. He's like, Teak, man, I'm going to miss you, man. I love you. You are a warrior. And in the press conference was the last time I ever talked about football, really. And Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, he spoke at it and talked about me as a player. It just ended. Yeah. And then a couple months later, I'm working at the Today Show. And my first day was actually the shooting. And as tragic as it was a shooting at Virginia Tech. And they sent me because my mom and dad went to school at Virginia Tech. And I grew up in Roanoke, which is 40 minutes away from Virginia Tech. And so like my second life like started like that. It wasn't like ease into this and maybe you miss football a little bit. It's like, no, man, you're in news now. Let's go. Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah, and this with Waller, a lot different situation. Like like a lot of people got on him for retiring,
right?
And I remember when it officially happened, we said on our show, it's like this guy showed up, was traded here, played. He played well. He didn't choose to get injured, and instead of showing up and just half-heartedly taking a paycheck, he decided to walk away. Like I feel like that's what fans want players to do when they're not fully into it or
right. Well, I mean, the hard thing for Darren is that he was only here for a year. And so the emotion that I think Giant fans felt and probably still feel towards Darren Waller, fair or not, is exactly what they felt towards me. And Giant fans weren't happy that I retired.
Right.
They weren't like, yeah, good for you. In fact, they were mocking.
No, we thought we were going to suck the next year.
Right. And they were there, and it eventually became mocking once the Giants won a Super Bowl. Like, screw Tiki. We didn't need him anyways. And by the way, you're right. The Giants rushed for the same amount of yards. I mean, almost exactly. Go look this up. Almost exactly. In 2006 is 2007. The difference is in 2006, it was me, the majority of it, and Brandon Jacobs, a little bit of it. And in 2000,
a lot of those touchdowns.
Right, right. But in 2007, it was Brandon Jacobs and Derek Brooks. I mean, not Derek Brooks, Derek Ward and Reuben Drones and Ahmad Bradshaw. It was like four of them did the exact same thing. The numbers were exactly the same. It's kind of like mind-numbing, which tells you it's not the back, it's the line, right? And so to your point, if I ever make the Hall of Fame, it won't be solely because of me. It'll be because of David Deal and Luke Pettigrew and Richie Soyberg and Sean O'Hara and Chris Snee and Kareem McKenzie. Those motherfuckers like made my career, period.
Those five are like my football heroes as an offensive line guy.
Those dudes were awesome. They were smart as hell, and they worked their asses off. And they don't get enough credit for how good they were during that era. Just go look at the year after I left. The production is exactly the same. The difference is that defensively, we had health, right? Strahan was healthy that whole year. OC was healthy that whole year. And ultimately, they get to the postseason, and Eli becomes a hero.
Yeah, Strahan didn't even show up to camp that year.
I mean, I don't blame him. He was like 34 years old.
Speaking of that year, what was more shocking? Like that Ravens Super Bowl where I was rewatching some, I think it was the 30 for 30, and the media going up into that was like, this is an easy Giants win.
Yeah.
Or that 07 year when they took that step up.
What was more surprising? I mean, I think we respected the Ravens. So I'm not going to say we knew, but we knew it was going to be a grinding game. They got, I don't want to say lucky, but they made some plays, right? Don't forget I forget the wide receiver that scored the first touchdown, that deep touchdown. Seahorn's button was coming unbuttoned, and they got up on us early, and then they returned a kickoff. They got the breaks on the running back pass interference on Keith Hamilton that Jesse Armstead picked the pass off. Yep. Like things just didn't go our way. But I think going into that game, we knew how good their defense was. I mean, think about it. It was Ray Lewis and to a lesser extent because nobody paid attention to D-lines at that point. Nowadays, we laud great D-lines, but Sam Adams and Tony Siragusa were 700 pounds of man. I mean, I'm not joking. That's not an exaggeration. It was 360 and 340 at your 2 D tackles, your 3 technique, your nose guard, whatever it is. Those 2 guys, you couldn't get through them. And so much of our offense was run game slip into second levels. And, Glenn Parker and those guys, they couldn't do it. and Terrell Suggs and my boy Jamie Sharper, who I played at Virginia with, and Ray Lewis just destroyed us, and it became a grind. But I think in 2007, you could see, I think that one was more surprising because you couldn't have predicted how elite Eli was going to be, right? You knew he was good, and he was taking those exponential steps. But every throw that he needed to make, he made, even the improbable ones like in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so I think, to me, that one was surprising, but it was such a great team effort. Because we talk about the Eli play in the Super Bowl with David Tyree, but it was the defense that just harassed Tom Brady from start to finish. And I was actually calling that game not calling it, but I was covering it for the Today Show. And so I was right there in the scrum afterwards, and I did an interview with Sam Madison and Deal I did there, and then in the locker room, right outside the locker room, I caught up with Eli. So it was cool, right? And it was an emotional moment, obviously, because I had just left it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we maybe to transition us a little bit to today, Tommy's here in the control booth, and he talks about dogs all the time, right?
The future Tommy and his dogs, dudes,
the dogs, and
doing damage,
having the dudes that do damage. But really, we've talked to Tollefson over the years, Bobby. We've talked to Snee. We've talked to guys from those 07-11
right.
teams, and one of the takeaways is, dude, like, they're competitors. They work hard. They hold each other accountable, and it's like the ultimate winners, right? That's what you need to do.
And they just didn't allow like we've talked to Jacobs after the Odell interview with Josine. He's like, we would have never let anything like that type of shit happen.
Ever.
Right.
Ever.
Like, do you see anybody on this team taking that? Because it does seem like a team of, you got some great players.
Right. Well, I think, so there's a couple of things you're talking about the current team.
Yeah.
The current team is exciting to me. And Tommy and I were talking about this on a show we did together yesterday, is there are like guys who are like great, like walk into the room and you just know they're going to be great. One is Malik Neighbors, obviously, but Brian Burns just looks different. You know what I mean? He's got that like physique that's like, man, that dude scares me a little bit. And when you have that attitude or that appearance, that is the aesthetic, let's call it, you have that aesthetic, and then it's backed up by how he like acts and performs, it becomes infectious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that 07-11 team that you're talking about, it had guys like that. Like Justin Tuck, who was not heralded, what was he, a 4th round pick or whatever, wherever he was picked. He just had that like look about him. And OC was the same way. And ultimately, Eli became that. You just knew that they were going to perform when it mattered. And so I think this Giant team now under Dabes and Joe Shane, they've developed this dog mentality, but it's also a grind mentality. And if anything we've learned over the last 2 seasons, it doesn't matter what the talent level is, because it's been inferior, right? 2022, when they get to the playoffs and they win a game, like that almost feels shocking given the talent.
Right.
Last year, once the injuries happened, talent was just depleted. Their depth was so not there. But despite all of those shortcomings, they fought their asses off every single game. Right? There was never
you won 6 games and everything went wrong.
Everything went wrong. And in 3 of those games, they probably should have won.
Yeah, missed field goal,
right.
The Jets game,
the Jets game, which was
Bills game.
Exactly. Think about it. They could have won 9 games. And it was one of the like worst collections and worst luck that you could have ever had. But that's because of how they're coached and how they fight and in the culture that Dabes has created. And so now they have some talent and they've gotten better on the offensive line, at least on paper, at least if they stay healthy. Like you just feel like something good is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't predict that because obviously injuries mean so much in this league, and Daniel Jones being the primary one that we're alluding to here. But I can't help but look at the team and say they got some guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you talked to Saquon since he left?
I have not. I don't have his number anymore.
What do you think happened there? Because your thing got taken out of context.
Well, he reacted to it. So
Saquon's a smart guy, though. You think he kind of would have been.
But
a couple days later.
I know he's apologized to how he, and it wasn't towards me. It was towards the fan base. But you guys know what I do for a living these days. I'm almost 50 years old. I am a talk radio host in New York City. Part of our job is to create noise, right? It's not unfounded, but it's to create emotional noise. And most of the times it's just this. It's a story that we're exacerbating, right? It only becomes an issue when someone reacts to it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right? So Saquon reacted to it.
Right.
And so then he didn't need to. It had nothing to do with anything. We're talking from a fan base. You go to the Eagles, trust me, we're going to hate you. Right?
Yeah, well, that's like,
right.
You see it. And
right. That's not, you
don't
go
be
to
shocked by it.
And
right.
if you go to the Texans, we're going to say, great for you, man. Good job. Thanks. Good job getting that money, man. You got paid, bro. Good job. But you go to the Eagles? Like, now we got to sit and watch you destroy us for 2 or 3 years or whatever it's going to be. And so he reacted to it, which created more of a story than it actually was. Paul Schwartz used to always tell me this: like, no matter what happens media-wise, it's usually going to be a one-day story, right? Like, people are going to get excited about it. Maybe it's a little bit longer now because of social media and has extended shelf life. But people are going to get excited about it, and then it's just going to peter away. It's going to go away unless you react to it. Because once you react to it, the one-day story becomes a 2-day story. And then the reaction on the reaction becomes a 3-day story. And then it just keeps snowballing. And so it becomes this narrative about something that was really nothing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so you just don't react to the radio bit is my advice to athletes.
It was just like, you were dead to the fan base because you left the and
right.
You know,
and it was
know Saquon,
and it's also half joking. Yes. We all loved Saquon. I mean, I was one of his biggest supporters, biggest fans over the years, and I mean, I think Saquon is I think he reads everything. Actually, I know he reads everything. Mm-hmm. And I went to try to think back. Like, was there any? Like, the only other time I could think of was that week 1 a few years ago when you called out his blocking on a show, but the blocking was bad in that game. Yeah, he wasn't good at it. By the way, I would not have done that if it wasn't bad. Like, my eye test could have told me that, but I wouldn't have done that if I didn't have the metrics on it. And the metrics are he was one of the worst pass blocking running backs in the league.
Go watch the film on that game, and it was, and he got better at it. By the way,
eye test tells you that, but I wouldn't have said it if it wasn't statistically backed up. Yeah. And it wasn't even. I
also think it helped him improve.
And by the way, it wasn't even bad. I just said he might not be a 3-down back. My exact words were he might not be a 3-down back. Now, what does that mean? That means you can tote it on 1st and 2nd down, but come 3rd down when it's a likely pass situation and you have to protect the quarterback. That might not be his strength. Now, to his credit, and you're right, he got better at it. He got really good at it. He started taking on those linebackers, and sometimes as a running back, and trust me, I know because I was bad at it too early in my career. You're setting yourself up to take an L, right? I mean, there were plenty of times where these big-ass linebackers are coming straight down my gullet, and I'm just like, all right, let's go. I'm just going to grab you and go to the ground, but you're not getting my quarterback, right? That's a successful block. Yep. And it's hard to, like, humble yourself to getting trucked for the benefit of the play. And you learn how to do it. No matter what it takes, you're not getting to my quarterback. Yeah. And Saquon got better at it. But that was just a evaluation. It wasn't a criticism. It was just the truth.
It was like you said, it was like a one-day thing because you are the former New York Giants running back, and he is now. It was like a one-day thing, and then it became a big thing.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Justin, what else do you have? We're hitting time.
I know we're hitting time, but I really want to ask you this because I know on radio you can't always geek out and like talk like all football nuances and film stuff.
People it gets lost.
Yeah, and I get it, but I want to kind of give you that opportunity right now.
Go ahead.
What is something you want to see the Giants, and we'll stick to the offensive side of the ball here. What is something you want to see them accomplish this year, whether it is film-wise, stat-wise, like explosiveness, finding an identity in the run game? What is that?
So they're already doing one thing that I want to see, which is throw the ball downfield.
Yeah.
Right, we know how football works. You can go station to station, first down after first down after first down after first down after first down, and try to score that way. But the percentages of converting first downs 1 to 7, they decrease every single one. So it's like 70% to get one first down, then it goes down to like 50, and then it goes down to like 20 something, and then it's like 12. So to go station to station to score is hard. And we know this also statistically, that if you have a big play in a drive, 20-plus yard play, you're 4 times more likely via EPA to score, right? Your EPA goes up 4 times if you have a big play. So you have to have big plays in football. This is another thing about running backs. Why aren't running backs getting paid? Because running backs have a significantly lower big play potential than any other player in the game, except for one, Christian McCaffrey. And there's a reason that dude's making $19 million a year, because he has big play potential whether you hand it to him or you chuck it to him. And so we wonder why the running back number has come down. It's because running backs aren't making enough big plays.
Right.
And we know now in the NFL, the number is simple. 4 times more likely. Think about that. 4 times more likely to scoring points if you have a big play. And so the fact that the Giants are doing that is enormous to me, and that they drafted to do that, and they built this roster to do that. Yeah. Number 2, I wanted to give Bobby Johnson the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to crap on him now that he's gone, but I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt that he just had young talent to work with, and he couldn't get the most out of his players. Now that Brasillo's here, and I've seen what he did in Oakland, or Las Vegas, I should say, with the Raiders, I want to see the understanding of responsibility be paramount for the offensive line. I'll give you an example. So last year, how many times did you see on the game, or, and I know you guys do this, watching a game tape, it looks like Evan Neal is just lost. Like he's just standing in space, blocking nobody, just like set correctly, but there's nobody out there, right? Yeah. And so, and then someone comes inside of him, and there's a game or whatever it is, and he's blocking nobody.
It lost even that Bills game. You know, everyone gets on Tyrod for that last play of the half,
right?
Which always reminded me of that last game of 2004 when they handed the ball off to you.
Yeah, exactly.
But if Evan Neal blocks the right guy on that, it's a touchdown. Right. And we're talking about how ballsy it is, the same way we did, in 2004.
And so you guys know this because you understand how offensive lines work, right? There is a man side and there's a turn side. The turn side is like, all right, we're zoning up here, right? Like,
right.
If that guy comes and I got to pass him off, you better be ready for him. Right? There's a communication that has to happen, but it starts with understanding which side is the man side and which side is the zone side. I felt like last year the Giants' offensive line had no clue. They had no clue. I don't know if calls were happening at the line of scrimmage. I don't know if there were adjustments happening at the line of scrimmage. Ultimately, it's the quarterback's job to get everybody right. I mean, one of the biggest challenges for any quarterback, especially a young quarterback, is when it's all wrong, you better make it all right. Otherwise, you're getting hit in the face. And it's probably one of the reasons the Giants gave up 85 sacks last year, is because it felt like the communication was nil. And guys like Evan Neal were just lost standing on islands when his responsibility should have been elsewhere. And so the one thing I need to see, because I know this from the success that I had when our offensive line was really good, it was almost like they could communicate without even talking. The understanding of responsibility has to be paramount. I say this when I give speeches to like organizations or schools or football teams or whatever it may be. I don't know cannot be an acceptable answer to what happened. And so if you don't like drill it and teach it so strong, so thoroughly that the 5 offensive linemen, the quarterback, and really whoever else, and let's throw the running back in this conversation as well, has ownership of everything. So you know exactly what's supposed to happen on every given play. I used to take pride in that. When I was standing back there when Eli was young, I'd be like, no, Eli, it's the wrong way. It's the wrong way. It's the wrong way. I'd be telling him as the plays get, and then he'd flip it and get it right. And eventually he mastered it, right? If if you don't give ownership of what's supposed to happen to that offensive line, to the running backs, and to the quarterback, and all of a sudden it's a clusterfuck, and you come to the sideline and the question, hey man, what happened? And everybody's looking at each other going, I don't know. That's on you as the teacher, right? I don't know is not an acceptable answer to what happened. Yeah. And that needs to get corrected with the New York Giants, because I felt like last year it was every single game you'd see these moments of just boneheadedness. And to me, that was teaching. So that needs to change, most importantly.
Yeah, Bobby,
as well as the big plays.
I'm interrupting you for probably what's going to be final one. I just had a dream unlocked, and I never realized that it was a dream. I just had Tiki Barber reference EPA.
I was going to say, you're speaking his language is EPA.
I've been talking about this. I don't want to go on a tangent, but we've been talking about this since like Daniel Jones in 2019 is like throwing up the ball downfield, and they weren't doing it like at an awesome rate. But it was just
they were at least doing it.
It was different from seeing, how Eli kind of progressed in his career than he does it in 2019 under Shermer. And then Garrett and Judge come in and they neuter him from it. And I'm like, well, what's going on? This doesn't look right. And now like it's been like the drum that I've been banging for the last couple years.
It almost like it's why when people want to slam Daniel Jones, I want to just say you just don't understand. Right? You just, and I can explain it to you, but you're not going to understand it when I explain it to you. Yeah. And so all I can say is just trust me. Yeah. Right? Let's see it evolve. Let's see, now that Daves is calling the plays, let's see this evolution. Mm-hmm. Now that we're not, have Josh Azudu playing left tackle and just let's,
not out of the woods there yet.
Van Ginkel come unfettered and blast him. I mean, that's the hardest backside hit I think I've seen in a decade. Yeah. How hard he got hit against Miami, right? And that's why whatever he did to his back or shoulder or neck, whatever, stinger. I want to see Daniel Jones back, as crazy as it sounds, when Pat Shermer had him.
Yep.
I'm serious.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And I think Dable's he's, with him taking over, we're forming the offense around our weapons and not necessarily what you've done over your career. Right. But let's ask you, what's your record prediction for the 2024 New York Giants?
So it's funny. Last year we had the same conversation on our show, and I said they feel like a 9-8, 8-9 type of team. And until I see otherwise, I'm going to say it's a 9-8 type of team, because I still think they need some talent. They need some depth in certain spots. Their secondary is so young. I think they have some talent there, but they are so young.
Yeah.
Isn't Pinnock the vet, and he's 26 or so?
Yeah, it's his second year starting.
And he's the vet in the secondary.
He's new to the safety spot as well, too.
Right. And so I worry about that. I love the front seven with Sexy Dexy and the two edges with Burns and Kayvon, and obviously Bobby Okereke in the middle is just a stud. And I even like McFadden. So I think that the talent in the front seven is there. I worry about the secondary, but we'll see. I think this new defensive scheme under Bowen is going to be a little bit more conservative, right? I called a couple of his games in Tennessee over the last couple of years, and it's not risk taking, right? You might not see double-digit sacks from either one of the edges because that's not how they play. There's a lot of gap responsibility. Don't just go rogue, but they stop the run and they make you throw the football. But the challenge now is that we got a young secondary if they do decide to do that. So that evolution is one to keep an eye on early. But I think this is a 10-win team, a 9 to 10 win team. And so much of it is going to be, can they outscore some of these teams? Because we know where offense is in the NFL. It's just like pound on the points. And the Giants have not been able to do that over the last couple of years.
So what's the official, 9 or 10?
I'm going to say 9.
Okay.
I'm going to say 9.
Because we make a graphic.
Yes. Nice. Nice. And by the way, in the NFL these days, that can get you in the postseason.
Oh, I'm celebrating that.
Right.
I'm celebrating that.
I mean, I listen to some of these guys. They're like, I see 4 wins. I see 5 wins. Like, no, they're not that bad.
Our low, because we asked this for everyone in our camp series. I think our lowest is 5 with Dunleavy so far.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, so much of it depends on health, but I'm just the optimist. I'm the homer, right? I love Daves. I love Joe. Obviously, the organization it's like second family to me. So I'm being optimistic. I'm being optimistic Tiki over here, just like optimistic Tommy.
Yeah, positive Tommy.
Well, positive Tommy.
We appreciate you jumping on Talking Giants. You're part of the Talking Giants family now.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
you guys.
Thanks for
making time for us, man.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming in.
All right, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, bases full, down 3. The crowd on their frickin' feet. The drama of baseball is real. And so is all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook. From the first pitch to the final out, DraftKings has you covered with same game. I'm going to stab you. Same game with same game parlays.
Baseball stuff?
Live betting, odds boost, and so much. You got to either throw glass or nothing. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. DraftKings also has you covered with same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. Throw around a lamp. I don't care. DraftKings also has you covered with same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more, which I just said twice because it's so freaking nice. It's like the city of New York. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WORLD. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code WORLD only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for a problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 160 hours, 8 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/baseball for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Be glad it did. All right.
That was the quickest that anybody has ever read that. That was really impressive.
Hey, we were in Connecticut. Help was available to us.
Do you think it's a coincidence that every single Giants player is now getting injured since they stopped allowing fans in the building?
Nope, not a coincidence at all. I think it's on purpose. But with the Tiki interview, that, like I said, like we had like some other questions, like we didn't even get to them because Tiki he doesn't just answer a question. Like he gives you like detail on every single thing that you ask, right? He's not going to leave anything up for debate. So I thought he was a pretty damn good interview, and I think we'll eventually talk with him again.
I would love that.
We try not to double dip on interviews too often, but it was really cool. And I'll be honest, it was kind of a cool moment, where it's like one. I used to watch Tiki Barber as a kid be a beast, and I'm interviewing him in person. And we were like just in the studio recording on the biggest sports station, I think, in the world, right? Like they are the biggest, outside of ESPN, they are the biggest sports station in the world.
Also, this reminds me of this. I mean, we did this interview like almost a week ago now. It reminds me. All you old people, and I'm looking right at the fucking camera right now. All you fucking old people.
What is going on
over the years? No, this is personal. This is personal. All you fucking old people over the years that said, Justin, you don't know shit. You just look at data and the numbers. And blah, 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 blah. I sat next to Tiki Barber, who should be in the Hall of Fame. And in my presence, he mentioned fucking EPA. Okay? None of these fake numbers. Throw them out. They don't matter. I know what I'm fucking seeing. Well, guess what? I win. I win.
Maybe Tiki Barber's wrong, too.
I disagree. You're saying a former player's wrong, Bobby Skinner?
Correct.
Oh, former players are never wrong.
No, I was actually kind of like thrown off. It's like you sound like anti-running back, Tiki. Like you need to, even if it's right, you need to be a little delusional about the running back position.
No, I'm not even celebrating that. I'm just celebrating that. I mean, it's like, oh, Tiki Barber talking about explosivity, EPA. Yeah, like he'd be just like me for real.
But hope you guys really enjoyed that interview. It was a fun interview. It was a fun moment for us. Thank you, Sean Marash, who helped get it set up. Also, hope he's doing well. His father-in-law passed away last week.
And thank you to Tommy Lugar for recording the audio.
Loogie. All right, so that's an episode. We'll be back with player profiles this week. We'll be back for a regular episode on Friday. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.